First of all, I just want to welcome all of y'all. Thank you for coming tonight and supporting this legislative rally that we're going to have. I want to do a few introductions and thanks to people that came. First of all, on the stage, I've got Steve Klaus with the House of Representatives. I've got Susan Owens, who is a parent of a child that attends here, but also she works for Moving the Adams School. Ed Dorsey is the director of Von Bloomberg, and Dan Zapata, who is with Pike County. They will all be speaking, and also I want to recognize some others in the room. I know that Mayor Blackwell is here from the city of Ozark. I have several of my board members here. If you're on the board at Moving the Adams School, can you stand? Also, I have Hank Vaughn in the back, who is the chairman of the board at Von Bloomberg. I have several county commissioners here. If you will stand. And do I have any city officials here? Okay, if y'all will please stand also from the city of Ozark. And I hope I haven't missed anybody. Is the probate judge here? See, y'all know he's still telling me what to do. Y'all like that. I know some of y'all find that quite funny. I want to thank my staff that came tonight and staff from other programs. I actually also saw Anita Whitfield in the back, who is over the ID program at Spectre Care. If you will stand, Anita. Vicki Florence, I see you too. She's over Coffee County. And Henry County's probate. David Money, I see you. Say hey. Thank y'all all for coming. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn over the program to Ed Dorsey now at this time and let him give you an update on what's going on in our world.
Do I have to use this?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. I think the purpose of the meeting is twofold. One relative to parents, family members, and the folks that we serve, and the other one is budgetary. Speaking to the first, I think 50 years ago or 60 years ago, family members were extremely active in regards to getting services for their sons or daughters or wonderful. Anyway, what we're seeing now, I have an email that came to me from the state park office, and the legislatures are not hearing from parents, family members, etc. They need to hear, not just today or tomorrow, forever. And then as things change in everyone's lives, there needs to be family members to continue that struggle forever. If you don't make noise, they're not going to listen. Okay? Can everybody make some noise in here? The second one is bring that noise to Montgomery. As you bring it to Montgomery, it's we have elected officials here this evening. They're listening, okay, but they're not hearing enough from our families. Just a couple of statistics. There's 5,800 individuals that are receiving services in the state of Alabama. There's over 3,000 people on the waiting list. Okay, 300 individuals are added to services annually. That's a ballpark figure. So 300 additional individuals are coming off the waiting list, and they're receiving services annually. 600 are graduating from school and going on the waiting list. Gotta make noise, folks. Okay, this is real important. We're making it, but we need your help. We'll need your help forever. This is one of the first initiatives that I've ever been part of that involves all mental health. We have representatives from Comprehensive 310. They serve people with intellectual disabilities in mental illness. I represent an agency that serves people with intellectual disabilities, as does HIM. But all agencies are coming together. This is one meeting of 8 that are going on through the state today. There's been 2 prior to this, and there'll be 2 more after this in the state of Alabama, hopefully challenging parents and family members to really step forward, continue the fight that you started 50 years ago. And then the legislature is listening and not allowing these projected or potential cuts from occurring. I've flipped through all my papers to make it look like I got everything written down. Are there any questions for me? And I apologize, but I do have to leave. Somebody asked me a question, thank you.
Ed,
Sir?
based upon the projections that you've seen, what can Vaughn Bloomberg do to stay open, or what can Vivian B. Adams do to stay open, or what can Dan do with his program with the severe cuts that are projected?
Without the money, the challenge becomes too much to overcome. I think that what we need to do is what we're doing tonight, but expand on that. You know, I think, Anna, the first one was 400 people. In the first meeting such as this, there were 400 people. And as you look at the different meetings that are being conducted throughout the state, that's hundreds and thousands of people. That's today, but it can't stop. It must continue. Otherwise, the impact would be great. Nothing being taken. Hello. Thank you so much.
I'm Dan Zapata, Director of East Central Mental Health, DD Division. We're a comprehensive program, meaning that we have children's services, we work with the MI population, we work with outpatient counseling, stuff like that. What it will mean to us, just coming back to that question, what it will mean with us, the state wanted us to do an 11% proposal, I guess. If we got an 11% cut, what would happen? I cover Pike, Bullock, and Macon counties. I've got a 3-county system. I've got programs in each county. I've got consumers in each county. I have case managers in each county. I have residential programs. So you name it, I'm in. What it means to us, and the state asked us, they asked us in April to say what would happen with an 11% cut. Okay, here's what would happen. I figured it up. I would have to lay off at least 1/3 of my staff. That means laying off about 8 to 10 people that has worked for me for at least 15 years. Okay, also with that cut, transportation is one of our biggies. I don't know if y'all would agree or Ed would agree, but we have to get these people. We all have rural county programs. We have to run these counties. Fuel costs, everybody knows what the fuel cost is up here. Okay? At that rate, at 11%, I would have to leave at least 20 individuals at home. Now that's 20 individuals that get services each day. That's with counseling, everything else that we do, residential even. So we're going to have to say no to services for at least 20 people. It's like, hey, we can't come pick you up. We can't provide services. So that's at an 11% cut. Now, they also asked for a 19%. What would you do with a 19% cut? But now we didn't even respond to a 19% cut. Because once you start talking 19, 20% cut, with me, it would be probably laying off at least half of my staff. And that's people that's worked for me years and years and years that I got to go to and say, hey, you ain't got a job no more. And we're talking about leaving 20 people at home at 11% cut. So you get them up to 20% cut, you're talking like 30, 40 people you're leaving at the house. But I mean, we gotta have the budget, we gotta have the money to stay in business. Bentley does not want to expand Medicaid. That's another one of the problems here in Alabama. Yes, Medicaid, I think it needs to be overhauled as a taxpayer. But as a businessman that gets out and runs these programs, we cannot run these programs without Medicaid dollars. So, do we have any questions on anything I said? Okay, yeah.
Dan, how many do you serve in your day programs and your residential programs, and then like on the MI side, about how many individuals are you serving on the MI side?
On the MI side, that's a touchy one. I would be scared to say, but it's up in the thousands. I know for a fact it's up in the thousands. Because the last study we did was when we were trying to open up some apartments for the community, and the community was concerned about, having more MI individuals in the community. And so we had to go out and we had to get the stats on it, but it was well up in the thousands.
What about
Because you're talking about now, say we have MI day programs, plus we do outpatient counseling, so it's well up in the thousands.
how many are in each one of your day programs, and how many do you serve residentially?
Residentially, right now, we're serving 9 in the residential program, and on the day half, we're serving in excess of about 60. Yeah. So you're talking about at 20 individuals, leaving them at the house at 11% cut, and that's 1/3 right there. Okay, who else? Yeah.
What's going to happen to all these people who have to home? They've been getting this service all these years, and all of a sudden they've been cut off. What's going to happen to them?
We're going to go back to mental health the way it was back in the 50s and 60s, where people just kind of stayed at the house and didn't do anything. Probably just sit there and watch TV. The worst thing too, I need to let y'all know this, they're talking about, what do you call it, deconflicting. They're talking about deconflicting case management plus these day program services. Okay, I'm everything. I do everything. I work with case managers. I'm the director of case managers plus day programs, plus residential director. But what they're talking about doing is they're talking about letting maybe some outside agency or somebody they have in mind come in and do either your day half or your case management. Well, one of the things we decided to do, if it goes that route, and this may answer your question, one of the things we've already talked about doing is just doing only case management. Because the case managers can always go inside the houses and check to make sure make sure their bills are being paid, and make sure, they've got every other thing that you and I take for granted. So that's what we'll probably have to do in all 3 of our counties, because we're all rural counties. The day halves are good in our counties and everything, but if we had to have one or the other, pick case management, because that way you can at least keep people safe.
What's going to happen to supportive housing when we get help?
Well, what now?
Supportive housing.
Supportive housing?
Yeah, what's going to happen to them? The people out there who need that, they can't make it on their own.
Well, see, getting back to this with the Medicaid dollars, and if we don't get any kind of budget passed in the state of Alabama, what's going to happen is, just like today, I was working on an emergency situation. I actually had a person that was living in a shed out behind the house, and I'm trying to get that person placed right now as fast as I can. Okay? You drive the budget like that where you can't serve people, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know the answer to that, because I wasn't around back in the 50s or 60s, and I thought we had went so far in mental health, but it seems like we're just kind of backing up right now. And if we don't get the funding that we all need, and I've already downsized about as far as I can do, because I had another coordinator working in another county, and when she retired, I just went ahead and took over that job. And where it could save us money, and where I didn't have to lay off staff. Yes, ma'am.
So
Could you, tell me a little bit more on that? Oh, rehab day programs. With us, I'm just speaking for the DD side and the agency. Now, I hadn't heard what my agency has decided to do on our MI side, which is our rehab day programs and everything. I don't know how their funding's gonna be. I know my boss is gonna be going to the, rally that's in Montgomery. And I've been around long enough, I've been here 21 years running programs. And the times that I have done this, it wasn't a local thing like we're doing tonight. We've always showed up at state capitol. And that's what it's gonna take. In years past, that's what we did. And I think Vicky and I hate to put y'all on the spot, but I know we've been up at the state capitol at least 2 times over my 21 years up there asking for funding. So this ain't the first time this has happened. This is probably gonna be the worst time it's happened because our economy's bad. Back then, our economy was booming, but right now our economy's bad. Alabama don't know where they're gonna get these tax dollars to even shore up some of these programs. Who knows if the lottery will save us? You know what they're talking about on the lottery, you know, who knows on that? But I think this is probably the worst time in my history of working 21 years that it's happened at a bad time. It's happened at a real bad time. You know, America, you know, we can't bounce back with our economy, and you know, our state has not bounced back with our economy. So right now is a crucial time.
Any more questions?
Any more questions?
Using the lottery would help maintain or get more money in the program?
It just depends on how they're gonna earmark it. Now, you know, that boils down to how is that money gonna be spent?
Well, it seems to me like every time they cut the full-timers or whatever, it looks to me like if the lottery exists, they use that money for that purpose. Keep the program going.
Well, the good thing about that, y'all are here tonight, and if more people come to these rallies and tell your local officials, tell the people in Montgomery what's going on, you know, that's what it's gonna take. But it's gonna boil down to how they're gonna earmark that money if they do get that lottery. That's what it's gonna boil down to. They sent out a list. I've got the list of all the scheduled events. They shot out an email, and they're having, is it about 6 events? Statewide? They're doing about 6 events. Anita, do you know? They're doing at least, I think, about 6 of those events, because I just kind of scanned down. They're doing it all over the state like we're here tonight. So, like I said, my boss and the clinical director, they're talking about going to Montgomery to that one. I know they're gonna have one around Montgomery. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Does the state have any plans to generate any funds to keep from making all these cuts to programs like this, other programs?
In my opinion, and you can take it, I guess, as it is, it's just an opinion. Alabama will probably have to raise some type of taxes to come up with some type of money. I don't know what their plans are about that. You know, thank God I'm not in politics. You know, I love to serve people. But chances are it's going to have to be some kind of tax base. Because I think that lottery, just by studying the numbers of it, I believe it's just going to be a quick fix to a program. I mean, to Alabama. It's just going to be a quick fix. You got to look at the long term on, you know, what we're going to do for the long term. We don't need just a quick fix. Because you get a quick fix, guess what? This time next year, or this time a couple of years later, we're back here again. So, but what it's going to take, it's going to take families, and it's going to take consumers, you know, and like I said, the last 2 that I've been to was on the state capitol steps. That's where everybody went to. When you start showing up at the state capitol, that's when you're going to start getting action. It's like the old saying, I'm an old country boy from Brundage, Alabama. I I was out catfishing last night on Eufaula at 1 a.m. But it's the old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Everybody's heard that, so. Any more questions?
When will the meeting in Montgomery be at the Raleigh?
I don't know when it'll be. Like I said, I've got that schedule at my office, so I could probably print it out and I could probably send it to Hannah, and I guess Hannah could probably get it out to y'all. But they're having these statewide. I think I've seen one, and I know the ones in Montgomery, but I think there's one in Mobile. They're gonna do them all across the state. So,
Well, I work here,
yeah.
and I love my job, I wanna keep my job, and I'll do whatever it takes to do that. And I love all our individuals that come here. I don't know all of them by name, but I know most of them, and I love them all. We need to keep this place up.
Thank you. That's what we like to hear about. All right, any more questions? Okay, yeah.
What do you tell the customers who do business with the work center when they can't find a place to buy their steaks and ups, which I help process, after you cut that program?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, after you cut the program, I mean, you know, it's gonna affect everybody. Work programs, you know, everything.
Are they talking about cutting breast fish also?
It's gonna be all services. All services are, when you say 11% cut, you spread that cut across all services. Just like with us, it might even mean they may have to play off the case manager. You know, we don't know. All I can do is a probability study. You know, they're saying what if, you know, is what they're saying. So I answered to it, but you don't know until you're there. Whenever that 11% is cut, and you start getting, you know, all the bills keep rolling in for keeping the lights on, keeping these vehicles out on the road, picking up these consumers, and paying staff, and, you know, paying benefits, all that. You never know until you're finally there. You know, it would probably take us probably at least a good 3 months to see how our cash flow's even going. So, any other questions? Okay. All right, thank y'all.
I'm so delighted to be able to speak to y'all tonight. For over 20 years, our son Ryan has been privileged to be a part of the Vivian B. Adams School family. He has received day habilitation services here since he was 8 years old. He is now 32. Usually, when you meet a 32-year-old man, it's natural to ask, what do you do? If you ask Ryan what he did, he would tell you he does school. VBAS gives him an affirmation of who he is. This is his work and his world. The routine here gives him security, a sense of independence, purpose, and acceptance in a world that can be very cruel to those who are different. Here he has a peer group and a sense of community, a chance to be himself and express himself with people who are like him. The loss of this program or even a cut in these services would be devastating to Ryan, to us, and to all of the individuals and families served by the day habilitation programs in this state. Many of these individuals require assistance in the everyday routines of life. They must be fed, shaved, showered, dressed, and have their shoes tied. They're not able to care for themselves even for short periods of time. Loss of these programs and cuts in services means loss of income for many families, as they would have to give up employment in order to care for their individuals. Personal care for a special needs individual is $15 per hour. If you work a part-time, 20-hour-per-week job, your individual's care would cost you $1,200 per month. Loss of employment trickles down into loss of tax revenue for our state and the addition of people needing state support just to live. For many of our caregivers, some are elderly. The time their individual spends in day habilitation is the only respite they have from the intense needs of their individual. This is a money issue, this is a priority issue, and this is an issue that demands addressing. And we don't need just to be levelly funded so we can keep on right where we are, come back again next year, worrying and worrying and worrying about what is going to happen to our programs. It is time to address the needs of the over 3,000 deserving individuals in this state who are on the waiting list for services. Many of those people have been on that waiting list for over 10 years. There are slots in programs for these individuals. There is no funding for the Medicaid waivers that pay for their services. If your individual lived across the road from Adams School, they would go onto the waiting list and sit on the porch watching folks come in while there was a place here for them, services for them, but no money here to send them. We are not just sitting still asking for a handout. Our programs, all of these day have programs, this one I know, works diligently for private funding. We seek United Way funding, Wiregrass Foundation funding, Southeast Alabama Community Foundation funding, and funds from other sources. And here at Adams School, we've been proactive in building funding to provide tuition aids to our individuals as they age out of the public school system that allows them to remain here while they're on the waiting list and not go home and sit on the couch for who knows how long. I am speaking for our children, our individuals who have no voice. I speak for the most fragile citizens in this state, and I speak for those who we are morally obligated to care for. I do believe, in fact, I do know, that our local legislators have our best interests at heart. I've spoken with both Steve, I've spoken with Dexter Grimsley from Henry County, and they know what we need. They want to hear from us. I believe they want to hear from you, and I encourage you to express your concern to the legislators. When you walked in, you were handed a sample letter or email. All you have to do, take that, you can do it word for word, you can put it in your own words, and on the back, send it to every one of those people we have elected. Let them know how you feel. They are there to serve us. They want to serve us. A few weeks ago, some of you may have seen an NBC Dateline that was aired that highlighted the problem of aging out of special needs citizens from public school programs and the plight of their parents as they search for programs and help for their adult-age special needs individuals. One mother who was planning to leave New York to move to Florida called the state of Florida to inquire about programs available in that state for her son. After hearing of her son's needs, the state worker answering the phone said, "You don't want to move here. I've lived in Alabama for most of my life, and we have marketed ourselves as Alabama the Beautiful and Sweet Home Alabama. Let's work hard and let's work together and not let our tagline become Alabama, you don't want to move here." Thank you.
That's tough act.
Now, so the stuff that's on, since I'm on legislator here, I don't have anybody to throw it off on, but I appreciate y'all doing this. Now, when I first heard about this, well, I thought, well, that's nice, but y'all preaching to the choir with me, and I think most of the legislators in Southeast Alabama, but when I heard it was happening all over the state, that was very encouraging, because that's what needs to happen. It needs to happen all over the state. And particularly from, I'll just be blunt about it, particularly Birmingham, North. I'm dealing with some folks that just frankly think no is the answer. A lot of new legislators who went in on no new tax pledge and really don't understand what the budget's all about, and they just think no is the answer. And so it's important for them to see rallies like this, dealing with mental health. They're hearing from their court officials. They're hearing from their healthcare folks in their areas like hospitals and the nursing homes. And of course, we've been seeing it with the prison situation in the state of Alabama. We're very close to having the federal government come in and take over our federal prisons, our state prisons, and that will be a very tragic situation, because they're just going to open the door and let a certain amount out there. So we got a serious situation in the general fund budget, no question about it. And I've sort of been branded as the legislator from a couple of conservative blogs around the state who's been throwing spaghetti up against the wall just to see what'll stick. And a lot of it hadn't been sticking, but of course, a lot of it out of committee last week on some controversial voice votes, and it'll be up on the House floor tomorrow to see what happens. And of course, as a result of that, you're getting some recorded telephone calls today. I know some of you have. Not only tell them to call me, but legislators from all over the state tell them to vote no against the tax package. They don't say which tax package, they just say, tell them that we don't need any more taxes. No more taxes. So I started asking them, with some of the call, I answered the phone, I said, now, okay, you said it's a tax, which what you talking about? Well, just the taxes, just the taxes. Okay, which ones? I mean, we got one that's gonna be dealing with 25 cents on cigarettes. Are you opposed to that? Well, no, that's okay. So we got one that's dealing with business privilege tax to reform it. Right now, we have over 107,000 entities in the state that pay a minimum of $100, and that's going to be wiped off. Those small businesses that are not going to pay that $100 anymore, but the bigger companies that have a $15,000 cap, that cap's going to $22,000. Are you opposed to that? Well, no, I'm not opposed to that. I said we have another one that's going to be raising the title certificate on new automobiles $10. It's $15 right now, $16.50 when you add in the local administrative fee. Hadn't been changed since 1986. Raised $14 million. Are you opposed to that? No, not opposed to that. We got one that's going to make we have to declare your withholding on your state income tax. A lot of people haven't been doing that, and they don't pay their income tax in the year. That'll raise $12 million. You opposed to that? No. So then, why'd you call me? I was just told to call. You know, they said to vote against the taxes. I said, well, they, who is they? It's this group out of Opelika called the Group for Limited Government. Well, who's paying their bills? It's the tobacco companies paying. Because they know they can't justify, say, vote against tobacco tax and come out and say it. So they say vote against all taxes. They throw a big blanket on it, so you'll just vote against all of them. And it may very well have an effect on legislators. It might have an effect with me, but it may very well have an effect with a lot of legislators. If it does, it's going to be a tough day tomorrow, and it's going to be a tough night for me tomorrow night to try to redraw the budget to present to me on Wednesday. But again, I appreciate y'all coming out. I told Susan I was going to have to leave by pretty close to 7 because I've got a lot of phone calls to return. I got to be up here by 8 o'clock in the morning. But I appreciate y'all coming out. I'm going to carry your message to Montgomery, and just thanks for all y'all do.
Thank you, Steve. That is one thing, several of you probably know. I know my board knows we talk about this, seems like every board meeting lately, but we do have very good representatives in our area and senators, fortunately for us. And I do think that they know our concerns and that they will fight for our individuals that we serve. Before we close, I want to read a letter to y'all that was actually written by one of our individuals. When this rally came about, is how this letter came about, and I just want y'all to listen, to this message for a moment. I'm someone who doesn't have much in the way of family to call on for support. I'm also someone with an intellectual or developmental disability for which immediate employment isn't suited. I live in either a group home or a semi-independent living or assisted living program housing unit. I need some help with basic necessities such as maybe medication, getting around, reading critical material, meal planning, and preparation. I attend a sheltered work center, which may be my only real means of employment. You want to leave me out of critical services such as the above described, and I don't really understand politics or anything like that. If group homes are closed, where will I go? If I lose my assistant living program, where will I go? This is what your plan is doing to people like me. If you close my workshop, what then do you say about me having any real meaningful social life, since all my friends go to the same place? What is described in the above is a plea from people with whom I daily have contact here with. Please don't let them down when you consider the critical nature of the situation. Fortunately for someone like me, I have a family to go home to every day. In most cases, I don't need too much help getting around. My meals, needed medication, and other necessities are also provided to me as needed. I can come to a place like a sheltered work center and learn valuable skills such as how to make the most of technology. In addition, I have somewhat of a social life when I'm here. Therefore, I count myself blessed among those who don't necessarily have to worry about my future, unlike those in the above information, who don't have such access to family or otherwise, and for the most part live alone and depend on who they may refer to as a friend to help them. Think of it this way, in some instances, they have had no choice when it came to a family just abandoning them simply because they couldn't take proper care of themselves. On the other hand, they had choices, and they chose to enter facilities like this. Others chose otherwise. In most, if not all situations like this, it's a freedom of choice issue, like it is when it comes to how long or where someone wants to work. By shutting down the Supportment Avenue to potentially the only means of meaningful social life one might have by shutting down this work center or the day program or taking work out of which to switch it to just a day hab facility, some people would choose not to return simply because there is no work for which they are being paid. Even despite vocational rehabilitation program availability, I've seen the result of such failures in this program, where an individual was trained to do a specific job, and as they entered the community workforce accessibility, they lost their job and couldn't find another one. Therefore, they ended up back in the original sheltered work program that they started in. Please don't let this happen to us by just forcing us to lose our jobs here and the meaningful friendships of which we know. In closing, please do whatever it takes to save these programs before we see a tragic end result of the cuts proposed. Thank you, Mr. Roger Hayberry.
And I thought I could cover the whole program without saying anything, but that's not the case. I have been on the board here for 35 years. Hannah was a mere child when I first came on board, if that tells you anything. Our board of directors has faced a lot of challenges through the years with money, but nothing like it is now. This will be the third drastic decrease in funding if this goes through. So we're not talking about 1 year, we're talking about a cumulative effect of 3 years. Eventually, you can't stand it, and we're pretty close to that. Steve needs help. Some of these people, as he mentioned, have taken the blood oath, no new taxes. Let me tell you, we need revenue in the state of Alabama. I don't care what you call it. You can call it a fee. I don't care what you call it. I think we need to call it what it is and raise the proper amount of taxes to quit putting Band-Aids on everything, and let's get some funding here that this school, Long Bluebird, Dan Zapata's program with Spectra Care can live with and work with. Now, we have several members of our board of directors here today, and let me tell you, we are tired of worried about money. We want to worry about the things that can increase our programs here, the things where we can build a gymnasium here. We want to do the things that help this facility grow, to provide more service, not simply to exist. Give Steve your help. Steve wants to help. He wants to help. He's expressed that many, many times. Get these letters out. Tell people that we need the money, that you don't mind paying a little extra money in the form of a tax, because if we all pay a little bit more, that means we have adequate funding. That's what a tax is. Nobody is burdened, and nobody will be burdened in this case. Give us some money. Let us finish our gymnasium. Let us finish some adult programs. Let us do the things we need to do at our board meetings rather than worry about day-to-day funding. Susan expressed everything that you as parents need to know. Steve has told you that these, especially these North Alabama senators and representatives, need to be contacted. Do it. Let us build this gymnasium that we want to. Let us sit around and plan better programs. Don't make us sit there and worry about day-to-day funding. Steve's our friend. Get behind him.
The last thing I just want to say, that I think we touched on before, but I want to say it again. For those of you that have an individual who is already in some sort of program, what I encourage you today is to get behind your individual who's already receiving services. Get behind a friend who has a child on the waiting list, someone that is coming out of a school-age program, because you've got to fight for them too, because those individuals are not coming to programs like ours. They are going home, and whatever the school system did for all those years with them is not going to matter, because they're going home to sit. Those parents are going to lose jobs because they don't have anyone to care for them, and they deserve to have services just like anyone else out here, and we need them out here in my programs, in Ed's program, in Dan's, in Anita's. We all want to serve them, and we all have the capacity to serve them, but we've got to have the money to do it. So when you leave here today, like they said, please write these letters, call. And when I find out when there's a rally, we will take 20 buses if we have to. We will borrow buses and we'll go. But you have to make some noise. The biggest thing that we keep being told as program directors is that they're tired of hearing from us. They want to hear from the parents and the individuals that are served. So once again, I just want to thank all of y'all for coming tonight. I think this was a great turnout. And if we have to have a rally every week, we'll have a rally. But I don't know if I can feed you. I may feed you next time. I don't know yet. But I really do appreciate all of y'all coming. And I hope y'all have a good night.
What's going to get this thing done is not this rally. these senators, and thank God for Steve, thank God for the ones that fight for us. But if we don't put on our boxing gloves, and if we don't do more than just talk, if we don't walk the walk, then, you know, when this school closes, yeah, I've had my differences here, I'll be the first to say. But I'm gonna tell you right now, you know, that's just differences. You gotta communicate. Get past the differences, communicate. Right now, I want this school to survive. I've always wanted it to survive, and I'm willing to fight to see it survive. But if you really mean that, then get up out of that chair tonight and get to work. Because we, voices, parents, power, can and will change and make a difference. But you gotta show them who we are and what we are and why we are what we are. My son, everything he's got never came easy. I had to fight for it. And I'm here to tell you, if you go home and you lay this piece of paper and you say, I'll do that tomorrow night, that's exactly where that paper's gonna lay. But if you get up and you do something about it, then you can change this. We can change this situation. And Vivian B. Adams, Vaughn Bloomberg, and all of these, our kids. Roger can keep his job, and you know what? If we all work together and we're all willing to give. If I were an employee here, I can tell you what, I believe in my son so much that I'd give of my own benefits so this school can stay. When you get to that point, you can see a change. I'm not so stupid to say, I know we all need money, but I'm going to tell you, when we talk about sacrifice, there's got to be some sacrifice on all of our parts, and then we can see things happen, because you know what? It is the voices of those who cannot change their situation, and my voice has been my son's survival all his life, and I don't plan to shut my mouth till he's in the ground, okay? And even after that, my voice will ring, because there's somebody behind